Hi everyone. So some of you might have noticed that I didn't post a vlog video on the 1st of May this year. And there is a reason for this. It's not that I just didn't make a Bealtaine vlog video, which if you're watching this you will see that I actually have. And it's also not that I'm just uploading it late or making it belatedly. I had actually previously decided that I was going to try celebrating Beltane on a different date this year, because I was talking to my dad about the four, some people call them the fire festivals, Imbolc, Bealtaine, Lunasa and Samhain, and how, although the date has been set now in modern times to the 1st of the month, that, originally it would have been on the CrossQuarters, so the date that falls in the midpoint between the solstice and the equinox, or the equinox and the solstice, as is the case with Bealtaine. And it kind of got me thinking about how, for me, there are two dates that are kind of, authentically or accurately can be used to celebrate these fire festivals. I feel like either of these dates, is completely plausible. Because, the modern date is the 1st of the month and it's very much ingrained. But then at the same time, you do, the balance of light, unconsciously maybe there's some elements that were more kind of attuned to the change of season happening right at that central point between the equinox and the solstice, because as you may have gathered from the channel if you've watched other videos of mine, for me here in Ireland the seasons do change at the CrossQuarters. So today marks the beginning of summer for me, and honestly some years it really does make a difference, particularly at Lunasa and at Imbolc. You really can sometimes see the difference between the 1st of February, for example, and the 4th or the 5th. Sometimes you just start to get that little bit of growth or a little bit of warmth, or then at Lunasa in August you start to see maybe a little bit more red on the trees and things like that by the time the 4th or 5th rolls around. So this year I decided to give it a go celebrating at the actual CrossQuarters for at least one Sabbath and just see how I feel about it. The primary reason I have for making this switch and trying this out is that, again, as you may know, my birthday is actually on Samhain. I was born technically right before Samhain because I was born during the day a few hours before sunset on the 31st of October, which made me just about a summer baby, which is why I'm called Anya. So this means that if I'm trying to celebrate Samhain on the 31st, it clashes with birthday celebrations, and I often kind of either have to squash in a few things in one day or, make some sort of sacrifice in terms of celebrating my birthday and Samhain on two different days. And the way that I've been doing it in the last couple of years hasn't sat right with me. I've tried celebrating Samhain on the 1st and I didn't really like doing that, and when I started thinking about this CrossQuarter option, it suddenly dawned on me that I could have that sort of celebrating on the eve of Samhain on a completely different day to my actual birthday in a way that feels authentic to me. And it followed logically that if I was going to do that for Samhain, that I should do it for the other 3 days as well. But depending on how it goes, I found it strange this year not to celebrate Bealtaine on the 1st of May, I'm not going to lie, and perhaps particularly because it is so ingrained in not only Irish culture, but there's Labour Day, and in the UK it's a thing as well. I think it might even be a thing in the States. And it is a bit weird to have everyone, on Facebook and even my parents, saying happy Bealtaine or whatever on the 1st, and I'm kind of going, yeah, but I'm not actually celebrating for another couple of days. It was definitely a strange experience. So yeah, I'm going to kind of wait and see how I feel when Lunasa rolls around, basically, to see whether which day I want to celebrate on. And maybe it'll just be a thing of which day will be more suitable. And honestly, this year, as well, if you've seen my recent videos, you know that I've just moved out of my flat that I lived in for nearly 4 years. And, that was only, was it as much as, it's a week and a half ago now. No, just over a week ago. and I'm really only just settling back in. And if I had been trying to celebrate Samhain on the Thursday, I really would have only been back in my parents' house a few days, and my altar was barely set up, and I just wasn't going to be in the right headspace. I also got my ear pierced on the day that I moved out of the flat, and it ended up being infected, and you know, I just was not going to be wanting to. So, you know, it worked out pretty well. So I think I mentioned in my last video on my new sacred space, and if you're not familiar with what's going on here and with the wooden wall at the background and stuff, go and watch that video where I introduce this new kind of, somebody in a comment referred to it as my own little temple, which I love. That's fantastic. That's exactly how I want to think of it. So yeah, go and watch that. But I did explain briefly that down here I've got a whole new massive Mohegan altar, loads of space for expansion, which I'm really excited about. And then up here we have an Odin altar, but I'm also using it as a bit of a kind of working space as well, because I do need a little bit of space to put things down if I'm, you know, doing a working or anything like that. I might change that up if Odin's altar kind of expands in the future. I might have to create an extra space for working and things like that, but for the moment it's not too cluttered. I don't have a lot of stuff. Somebody also mentioned runes for Odin, and obviously yes, that is something that I have considered. I started learning about the runes at one point, but I never actually bought a set or made a set, and I am very much considering probably making a set, but it just hasn't happened as of yet. So I don't have a huge amount of stuff on the altar. It's really just well, everything apart from the teapot and cup in the front and the thing that looks like an egg, which is actually a stone. Those three objects are here specifically for Bealtaine. I had really no idea what Bealtaine was going to be for me this year. A few days ago, like I mean, I know I go into most of the Sabbats these days with very little organisation or preparation done, but I was feeling particularly anxious about it because I just couldn't get myself into the headspace at all. It's been really hard for me to imagine that I'm actually going to be doing a ritual in this space. Because, you know, I've done ritual before in my bedroom in this house, in my parents' house, but you know, that was more than 10 years ago. And the last couple of years, it's all just been in my flat. And with the exception of setting up a few meditation spaces in other places. It's all just been in that flat and at the same altar, and yeah, the idea of doing full-blown ritual in a new place is quite daunting. And just with the move and with everything that's been going on, you know, with plans for next year and everything, it's been quite overwhelming. It's been a really, really overwhelming week. But then a few things started to sort of fall into place. The one idea, I started journaling about it in my Book of Mirrors type journal, and ended up just kind of talking about my daily routine rather than anything spiritual whatsoever. But one thing that did come up was the idea of making an offering of just water, actually was what came to mind. Blessing the water, making an offering, and using that water to bless the space, because I like the idea of blessing this new sacred space. And that theme of water has sort of taken on a life of its own now. A day or two later, the stone in the middle, I'll show you it up close in a minute. My dad just out of nowhere gave that to me. He said that he asked me if I liked it, and he said, well, there's a present for you for the beginning of summer, so for Bealtaine. And it is a piece of granite that he found, I think years ago, on a beach somewhere near enough where we live. So it's just wonderful. It's this wonderful egg-shaped, so it has this real like new beginnings kind of birth kind of feel to it, and you know, birthed in the sea. You know, it's been shaped in the sea, shaped in the ocean, and it's just so symbolic of what I'm going through right now. This feeling of being submerged, which reminds me of baptism, actually, sort of. Yeah, this sensation of being submerged in the ocean, that I've come back to my family home, which is near the ocean, and where I lived in the flat wasn't near the sea, and that was one thing that I really missed when I was there, because when I'm here with my parents, I go out for a walk every day, and I walk kind of down, kind of along a cliff, kind of, well, a steep hill face along the sea, and it's just, it revives me. It really, really does. I grew up by the sea, and the seascape has always been incredibly important to me, particularly, not so much the beach, but particularly the seascape from up high. And yeah, so I'm sort of returning to the nest in a way, so the egg shape is very pertinent, and returning to this sort of seaside place of water and, you know, renewal. So this symbol of the stone that has been churned in the ocean into this new shape, you know, that it's been kind of it would have entered the sea in a rough form, and just over hundreds and thousands of years, perhaps even millennia, that it's been shaped into this really rounded, smooth shape and sort of thrown back out of the sea again, and that now it's come into my hands. That, I think the symbolism of that really started to catch hold with me. And then finally I found a poem today. I was looking for just a poem because I couldn't think, you know, I wasn't in the right space to be writing anything from scratch for this ritual, and I just felt like I wanted to find another poem to read in ritual. So I was reading through a couple of my poetry books, and again it's a Mary Oliver poem that I have chosen to read. You know, I was just flicking through a few poems and it just grabbed me, and it's again just, I think I'll read it out to you actually at some point in this video. So yeah, this watery theme has emerged, which was kind of not what I was expecting, because usually Bealtaine to me, along with the summer solstice, is all about fire. Really all about fire. Well, right through Lunasa, really, those three festivals for me are usually really about the fire. But perhaps even Bealtaine and the summer solstice in particular. And I was reading over what I wrote for last year and just thinking, wow, it's so just not where I am this year, you know. And it's funny how when I read back over the poem and the ritual that I wrote for last spring equinox in 2014, that it resonated with me so much that I felt like it suited me for this year. And then it's funny that when it comes to Bealtaine, that I couldn't be further from where I was at. It was all about fire. And yeah, I'm all about the water right now. I'm all about trying to flow, not trying to push things, and just trying to cleanse and prepare, because I'm definitely going to be going to Edinburgh in September, probably August actually. I'll probably move over in August. I actually got offered a scholarship yesterday, which it was really out of the blue, and I won't go into detail about it, but it was really out of the blue. And when I got that email, I just thought, this is a gift from the Morrigan. I had been for a while now just getting this feeling that the Morrigan wants me to go to Edinburgh, and that she is just pushing me there, that is where I was supposed to go, because I was choosing between Edinburgh and another university. And you know, I was applying for funding, and I was the thought crossed my mind one time in Sacred Space of like basically asking the universe to make the decision easy for me. And then I just thought, oh, the Morrigan never makes decisions easy for us, you know. And that has been my experience with her before, with you know, some huge decisions that I've made in the last 6 months. It was, you know, not easy, and not made easy for me either. But yeah, I'm embarking on something totally new now. A really different phase of my life. I'm moving to a different country for the first time, which is really exciting. I've never even lived outside of Dublin. I've always lived here, and I'm just ready for something new. I'm ready to follow up on this interest of mine. You know, it's just become more and more clear that it'll be really good for me to go and do this and to get an academic training in religious studies. And you know, I'm really hopeful about this, and it feels like the right choice. And the way that everything has just fallen into place, it's helping me to feel confident again in my ability to make right choices for myself. Because I did go through a long time there where I felt like I didn't really know what I want or what was best for me or the people around me, and that I was having a very difficult time, you know, telling intuition from any of the other multitude of things that can be influencing you. So yeah, I'm you know, the next couple of months I'm hoping to be productive. I'm hoping to get things done, especially on Heart Story. You know, I have a couple of projects that I would like to finish and kind of birth before I go and do the masters, because I'm not going to have so much time on my hands. Definitely not. I mean, I will keep Heart Story ticking over to the best of my ability, but like a full-time taught masters, I've done one before, they are very much a full-time commitment, and I won't have a huge amount of time to be, you know, working on kind of projects that take a lot of time and energy to complete. But I'm trying not to push myself too hard at the same time to birth things that just aren't going to naturally come into being, if you know what I mean. I feel like this is a time of preparation. This is a time for me to kind of submerge into that water and hold my breath in a sense, but mostly just cleanse myself, prepare myself, just wash away the debris of everything that's come before, and just make myself kind of clean and new and open to whatever comes next. And a lot of that is embracing you know, the ability I have now to do whatever I want with my time, to a large extent. Particularly getting this scholarship has freed me hugely financially. I'm moving back in with my parents obviously as well. It means that I don't have a huge financial burden, and while I feel like I should be putting in every single minute of my spare time, or just of my time in general, into Heart Story, I know from experience that pushing myself to create with Heart Story, pushing myself to, I don't know, for it to be a certain way, and for me to be uber productive, you know, it does get me places, it does move things along, but it's just not the feeling that I want to have with it right now. And like down the line, maybe I will decide that I want to really put in a lot of blood, sweat and tears into it again, but right now I just feel like it should be organic. I have the freedom to let it be organic, and to let me explore things as they come, and in a very natural, organic kind of way. So I'm just gonna kind of take that and go with that. So that's where I'm at this Bealtaine, and it's, as it always does, it's finally kind of fallen into place. Here's a closer look at that stone, as promised. Just so you can see in my hand, it's, you know, quite large and very smooth, really kind of egg-like, egg-shaped. It's really beautiful. Book of Mirrors. I like to have that to hand always when I'm doing ritual, pretty much. Just so that, like, in the middle of ritual, if I want to write something down, I can, or like straight after or whatever. I'm wearing about 1,000,000 layers, by the way, because it is still quite cold out here. Particularly in the mornings, actually, when I come out, like sometimes my breath is like seriously misting in the air. So yeah, lots of layers. So I'm actually going to read out that poem that I mentioned that I'm going to be reading in ritual by Mary Oliver. I think I'll let it speak for itself. I don't feel like I really need to explain, you know, with everything that I've said so far in this video, I don't necessarily feel like I need to explain anything about what the relevance is or anything like that. I think it speaks for itself. So it's called The Waterfall. It's part of the book, by the way, is New and Selected Poems, Volume 1. It was a Christmas present at some point. So, The Waterfall. For all they said, I could not see the waterfall until I came and saw the water falling. Its lace legs and its womanly arms sheeting down, while something howled like thunder over the rocks all day and all night, unspooling like ribbons made of snow or God's white hair. At any distance it fell without a break or seam, and slowly, a simple preponderance, a fall of flowers, and truly it seemed surprised by the unexpected kindness of the air, and light-hearted to be flying at last. Gravity is a fact everybody knows. Bleh. So I'm going to read the poem that I mentioned earlier. I don't think I'm going to explain in any... So I thought I'd read you the poem that I mentioned earlier that I'm going to be reading in Ritual this evening. I don't think it needs any explanation. I think it speaks for itself, particularly in light of what I was saying in the video until now. So it's a Mary Oliver poem, and the volume of poetry that I have is New and Selected Poems, Volume 1. And the poem is called The Waterfall. For all they said, I could not see the waterfall until I came and saw the water falling, its lace legs and its womanly arms sheeting down, while something howled like thunder over the rocks all day and all night, unspooling like ribbons made of snow or God's white hair. At any distance, it fell without a break or seam, and slowly, a simple preponderance, a fall of flowers, and truly it seemed surprised by the unexpected kindness of the air and light-hearted to be flying at last. Gravity is a fact everybody knows about. It is always underfoot, like a summons, gravel-backed and mossy, in every beetled basin. And imagination, that striver, that third eye, can do a lot but hardly everything. The white, scrolled wings of the tumbling water I never could have imagined. And maybe there will be, after all, some slack and perfectly balanced blind and rough peace, finally, in the deep and green and utterly motionless pools after all that falling.